What's up, everyone? This is BigPowner, and I kind of just want to go over everything for the Harvest League. I had wanted to put out more stuff, before close to the league launch, but we only got the less than 48 hours ago, and I wound up losing a day after the full patch release because I had power going in and out, so I couldn't really make videos. Um, but I kind of just want to go over just my general overview of the league, what I'm excited to do this league, my whole take on where the league is going. Obviously, I don't have in-game footage because this is a pre-league launch, but I've read everything very well that's going to be happening, everything that they've released and looked at. I'm actually really excited for this league, and I say this every league, but it's because they consistently release really interesting, good content. And I've been saying that every league it gets better, and my excitement for this league is, above that of any of the other leagues. And why is that? What makes this league more exciting than the last league? First of all, Delirium's going. The Delirium content is being added to the game. I think that that's great. Um, the end game, 100% Delirium maps. It's a really cool like end game thing to build up to. With like we've seen with the Blight editions and other mechanics, they make it easier to get that stuff. So if you enjoyed playing that stuff, it's not going to be wind up being, or historically, it's not going to wind up being one of those things that are like impossible to get because for in this case, it starts off at only a 5% chance of encountering it in a zone. But it's cool they're making it so that as you get more completion, you have a higher chance of encountering it. If they do what they've done with other mechanics, which they've said that they're making the clusters are going to have a higher chance of dropping, which is a good thing because if they had the same drop rate, it would make it really hard because basically it's starting off at a base of 1/20th of the frequency of seeing that stuff. So that's going to ensure that we have access to the cluster jewels. Hopefully, they didn't specifically mention this, but hopefully there's also an increased amount of drops of the delirium orbs so that people that really want to be playing that content are going to have access to it. Which, as we've seen in the past with other mechanics that have been added, they wind up scaling up the frequency of those things. With Blight, they made it so that Blight maps or oils are guaranteed to drop. They added other mechanics that made it so that those things could drop. Another example would be the metamorphosis. They added scarabs to be able to have more access to that, and you can actually get multiple parts dropping from killing your metamorphs. So consistently, that's what they do is they give us realistic ways to actually farm that type of stuff, which is really good. And if it's not up to a correct level, like kind of they dropped the ball a little bit. The first league after Blight, I would say that the chances were a lot better than they were. They were way too low getting Blight maps in Blight League. I think they've done better since Blight League as far as like the accessibility to the league mechanics. Because Blight League, it was like it was literally like the maps were so rare that a lot of people didn't enjoy it because the cost of the maps were more because they were so rare than you could actually make playing them, which was just ridiculous that you had a league that was about something that you didn't really get to play very much of. Um, so hopefully, we don't ever see a case like that again. Like I said, they're getting better. I haven't experienced the league that I felt that way since that. What I would like to see is, since we're not going to see as much delirium mirrors inside of maps, hopefully, the delirium orbs will be a higher drop chance than what they were in delirium. Otherwise, those are going to be wind up being like super expensive, and people really aren't going to get to play that actual really hard content very much because the cost of playing those or trying those is going to be so high that it's not gonna it's not going to be worth the cost. So hopefully that there will be that frequency. If it's not as high this league, I expect it to raise up like we've seen with other mechanics. As it gets further away, it becomes easier and easier to get access to, and then some people not having interest in it anymore makes them cheaper, and so the people that want to farm the stuff they're really able to. So I kind of expect some of that with this league. As far as the Delirium, as far as the Grove, I'm super excited about that. Uh, Really cool mechanic. From a personal perspective, I like that they're adding more mechanics that are going to be adding to crafting because I really like crafting. The other thing that really excites me about the Harvest League is the fact that it's going to be buffing up stuff that's already in the game. One of the things that I think is going to be really cool that's going to add a lot of fun to the game is the fact that the Harvest League is going to be modifying um, large amounts of components in the game. Like for instance, the best example, one of the things I'm the most excited about, is the buffing up of maps. So, for instance, they released a picture of a buffed up version of one of the maps, the Harbinger map, and instead of it having 6 Harbingers in it, I think it was like I don't know, it was a lot more. And the map was actually raised from tier 15 to tier 16, and 100% more experience, 100% more damage, like really cool stuff. And I'm excited for stuff like that because I really like doing the group activities and stuff like that. So I'm really excited that it's going to be just giving us the ability to buff up a lot of stuff in the game. I hope that accessibility to buffing up stuff like maps is going to be, pretty accessible so that, it's actually realistic to, you know, buff up like all the maps that you're getting if you, grind for that stuff. I'm really excited about this league. Just the mechanic itself looks cool, but then the effects that it's going to have on other things to make, old stuff cooler, more difficult, giving more scaling to just all of the general content in the game. That is what I'm really excited about. And seeing that, I think that moving forward into the next league, well, we're going to be heading into PoE2 soon. I think that that's going to be just another really awesome addition to the game because it's going to just add another layer of scaling the end game. It's going to add more crafting options, which crafting in this game is pretty complex, but you know, it's a complex game. That's one of the things that makes it really fun. So I really like seeing things like this that just add more layers to it. Um, as far as new skills, this is probably my favorite selection of skills that they're buffing up. They're doing brands. Brands, slams, war cries are like what most of the changes are about, and then they're focusing kind of in on two-handed weapons, which is cool because honestly, the last time that I really saw two-handed weapons being a very big deal in the game was back in Legion. That was like the last time that I really have seen two-handed weapons being a significant part of the game. This league, they will definitely be a significant part of the game. I like that they are trying to balance more weapons or make more weapons viable choices. Um, and they're really trying to do that because you can see that because they're buffing they're buffing overall or trying to make the choice of two-handed weapons a viable choice versus just one-handed weapons, which have been very predominant because the advantage of having a one-handed weapon and a shield or two one-handed weapons was just so high in the current state of the game. So I like that they're trying to bring more of a balance so that players have more choices. Um, Specifically, the reason why I like their choice of selection of skills is because these are probably some of the least played skills. Like honestly, the last time I played any of the skills that are getting seen work in this is so long ago. I mean, honestly, I think the only thing that I've really actually played was like Earthquake, Vol Earthquake, and that was pretty much just for leveling because it was a good like run through, pop off, of Vol Earthquake. It was just really good, fast way to run through leveling processes. I really think that that was the last time that I've actually really used one of these skills. It was just basically as a speed running method for solo running. So I'm really excited. I actually really am excited to play with some of these slam skills. I'm not starting it because I don't. It's a big unknown. All of the stuff is just such a major rework, and every single league we see at least one of the new things that they add has issues, and this last league was no different. Uh, I mean the herald stacking, and they didn't even fix it, which it winded up in this case being an advantage, but league after league, we've seen at least one of the skills have fundamental issues that literally made the skill unplayable. Whether that's because it would cause players to disconnect, like on Venom Gyre. Venom Gyre, I believe, was one of the skills that anyone who started the skill for like 2 weeks was not able to play the skill because it literally would not let you play it. When you start using it, you would just DC. Like, and there's lots of examples of this. Sometimes even like half the stuff they would add would have some form of an issue, whether it was damage not calculating correctly, too many calculations because they weren't focusing correctly, which would cause server issues, disconnects. So people that were playing those skills, like the loss in performance was so great that they're experiencing that it was unenjoyable, unplayable, and they had to restart. So the cool thing is having Archmage added last season, I'm going to be able to try out some of the new skills with having a safe path to go to, because Stormbrand and Archmage is getting basically just a reduction in stats. There's no major changes to it, and it's being nerfed through uniques being changed. But the skill is still the same. Brand is still the same. The only thing is they've just changed some numbers on it. So that's a safe path that's still viable for me. But I'm excited to have the ability to try out this stuff, all of the new stuff that's been added in a no risk. Like if the new stuff doesn't work, it doesn't change my build at all. It doesn't change my progression into endgame. It doesn't change my league start. So I really like that. But I am actually really excited to try out slam skills. And if you had told me before they started releasing this stuff that you're going to want to play slam skills this next league, I would have been like, I don't really see myself wanting to play slam skills because they just didn't really offer much, and I'm really liking the stuff that I'm seeing. Just a different kind of mechanic in the game, and it looks really cool. Like, and I like the changes to the changes and additions to the war cries too. I've War cries have really kind of been something that were just really not used very much, and now they look like they're going to be really viable, and they're going to be really fun builds this league. So I'm really excited to play around with that stuff and kind of play stuff that's really different from what most people have been playing. And there's a lot of options that look really good in these combinations. And the other thing that I have to give them kudos for is they've implemented the ability to basically get a keystone that is going to make it so that you could still use war cries in the same old way that you were using them, um, because there's a keystone that makes them function like they used to if you're only using a specific war cry and you want it on an instant cast. Because obviously they had to change the mechanics of it, because you can't be playing a war cry build if they're all sharing cooldowns or they're all on instant cast. Like that just doesn't work. But they're not killing the builds that did use a war cry. So I think that they put a lot of thought into how they would rework the war cries. Honestly, I kind of feel like slam builds were just kind of like dead. Like, yeah, there were some builds out there, but a lot of these skills were just completely dead skills. A- as far as the most community goes, I think that these were basically just dead skills, and I'm really happy to see the changes that are coming. They look fun to play. The scaling of them reworking the weapons so that weapons are going to be more competitive, because that was another one of the things is like the skills weren't really that great. Like Molten Strike has been pretty popular for a long time, but it was like for a very specific build as a single target DPS, and you were basically giving up map clearing to be able to play that skill. Um, which, these new skills, they have potential to have really good map clearing and having really good damage. So I'm really really stoked about this league. There's going to be a lot of stuff to try out. This will be a league that I'll probably wind up playing a lot more of the new stuff than I tend to, because normally, I mean, I'm not going to play something, first of all, if it doesn't seem that interesting to me. Like last league, like the Hollow Palm, it was basically like you have to have all of these uniques for it to work, and that's not fun for me. And it's just another Cyclone build. Uh, so, I mean, the Hollow Palm's cool, but I didn't really like that it was just so restrictive. Something like that, where like almost every single build for it is kind of looking almost exactly the same. That type of stuff's not interesting to me. But when you have so many different ways that you can take these builds, and there's a lot of options, I don't really see any restrictions inside of these new skills that are going to be a situation where it's like you only have one way to build this, which, that's kind of what the Hollow Palm builds were. Is like you have to stack this stat, and if you don't stack the stat, this skill is pointless. And I really didn't like the losing item slots to be able to do damage. That's just not my thing. So player preference, does play a fact in that. Some stuff's more fun for me. For me, losing customization ability in a build is a major negative because, it's limiting what I can do with the build. So that's why I didn't like Hollow Palm. Some people might have liked that. They might have been like, I don't need weapons and I don't need gloves. Sweet. But for me, it's like I'm losing a lot of, my ability to build the character. So, some people might like some things, some people dislike things. I dislike the way that build was very limiting, reducing my ability to actually, create something. But some people, that might be, you know, a good option. I know there are a lot of people that enjoyed that. Um, but this league, I am just really excited about all of the stuff that they have added. I'm excited about the mechanic. I'm excited about the changes to skills. Um, so this is just a really exciting league for me, and I think that there's going to be a lot of fun to be had in this. Um, and I'm excited to try out the new stuff. The changes that have come, I really can't argue with any of the changes that I have seen. There's some stuff, like small stuff, that I'm just kind of like, like what you're saying doesn't really, I don't agree with it, or like some small changes I don't agree with. But overall, I really like the changes. I feel like the changes that they're making bring balance to the game. Like the Archmage, I really like the Archmage build. They a lot of nerfs towards the gear that's focused around it, but I agree with the nerfs because the build was overpowered. Obviously, the removal of herald stacking. Personally, if I owned the company, I would have been like, it's not functioning correctly, and I would have just removed it. But I also understand where the gaming company was coming from, leaving it in, but it now being gone and it functioning the way that it was originally meant to. I agree with that. The changes to Cyclone, I feel like there's probably gonna be a lot of people who are gonna be like, "What? I can't just be immune and moving, attacking." Uh, that let's be real. That was an overpowered mechanic of Cyclone that's been in the game since Legion League, which is a really long time. And Cyclone has kind of been one of those builds that has just Cyclone has just been really, 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 really overwhelmingly used since Legion because it is just so it has just been really overpowered. I think that removing immunity to stun all of the time um, is definitely balancing and not ruining the skill, because that is just really OP. I mean, you're talking about every single other melee type skill. Um, you have the disadvantage versus Cyclone just simply for the fact that you're normally having to stop to attack. So that alone is such a huge advantage for Cyclone, um, that also having on top of that being immune to stun is just kind of like overboard, and I think it just kind of created the build the it's just like I don't know. Like I've had fun with Cyclone builds, but it's definitely kind of overpowered, and in the fact that that's normally kind of just the go-to melee skill because it just has so many advantages over other stuff, and it's even used as cast on crit for casters because the functionality of it is just so OP. So I agree with the changes. I think that there's probably gonna be a lot of people that are gonna be like, no, the OP, it's not as OP. Like I'm upset. But although we may not like some changes, we can look at them realistically and be like, yeah, this was really overpowered. So yeah, I may not like it right now because I'm used to it, but overall, it's balancing the game, and I think that pretty much everything we're seeing is conducive to balancing the game. Maybe they're going to have to make some small adjustments on a few things. But overall, I really like what I'm seeing in the patch notes, except for, my one complaint has been that they aren't releasing this stuff a week out. They started doing this last league, and I don't like it. I think that they need to consider the players because a lot of players, a lot of people that I've known, just every single league, before leagues, they like to try out their stuff for the next league. Historically, they've released the patch notes, the changes that are going to be in it the week before the launch for PC, and people are able to, test their builds and stuff like that, knowing what is coming. When you're releasing a few days when you're releasing a major set of patch notes that no one has seen a few days before that, this gives people either a lot or a lot of people not enough time to actually make a preparation plan for league launch, or they make it ahead of time, just kind of gambling, and they could wind up in a situation where their time's been completely wasted. And I don't think that that's very conducive to the players. I think that my major issue with this is that there's a lot of people I know that make plans and put a lot of effort into their preseason builds, and then a few days before they're having to rush and redo all of that plan and preparation if their stuff is affected. Last league, it wasn't as big of a deal because there weren't that many nerfs that actually came. Like, it was a very small spectrum in the final patch notes that changes came. These patch notes, it was massive, like absolutely massive. Like, it's just, I mean, just crazy amount of balance changes and stuff like that. I mean, this is the unique items that they have added changes to. Like, this list is just absolutely massive, and the simple fact is a lot of players, um, their builds are highly focused around unique items. I tried to focus more on builds that there's craftable options or rare options, because if a lot of people are going for the same uniques, you wind up with an item that's just insanely overpriced. If everyone's going for it, that's why I try not to go for popular builds as starters, because I don't want to wind up having to pay 1020 exalts for some item that I have to have for my build, which that's just a terrible situation to be in. Um, but there's just so many changes, and these are all the changes that came out, just a couple days ago in the last 48 hours, and we're what, like right now, somewhere around like 20 something, 27, 20 to 30 hours away from league launch, I believe. And we've had less these notes out for less than 48 hours, so you're talking about like about 3 days before the launch. I really think that they need to go back to 7 days out, but that being my biggest complaint. Overall, I mean, I agree with everything that they're doing. I just really don't understand why um, they have switched to this like last minute. I get that they want to build hype. I get that they want people to keep on being interested in looking at stuff, but doing this with patch notes is really not the right way to be building hype, because anyone who's affected by this and you ruin their build and they're one of those people that have been playing the game, testing their builds beforehand, um, they're not going to be happy. Or what's going to happen is they're going to just stop practicing builds, which you know, you're discouraging those players from practicing pre-league launch, because they're like, well, if it happens once and I put on all this effort practicing running the character and stuff like that, and then all that effort's wasted because in the last 3 days you release patch notes that ruin all of that prep work, then the next league is that person's going to be like, I want to practice my build pre-league, but you know, is it really worth it? Last league I made my build and I tested it, and then I jump in and 3 days before the launch they release changes on my build, and it's just ruined. And there was changes to ascendancy, so people might not even have the same ascendancy. Luckily for me, my the ascendancy choice for my starter and the changes to my build didn't make me have to pick a new build. Um, but that could have happened. For myself, I could just pick any one of my other builds if I needed to. But for a lot of players that aren't as experienced or aren't don't have the knowledge and ability to create their own builds, or to decipher quickly all this stuff, it can put them in a hard situation that could be frustrating for the players. And I don't think that that's what the gaming company wants to do. So I would really think and hope that they would want to change this practice. Um, anyways, um, just a lot of changes, but I agree with all this stuff. So um, yeah, I'm really excited about the league. My only complaint really is something from last league, just when they're releasing their patch notes. Other than that, I pretty much agree with everything. Even if I don't like some of the stuff, I agree with it and I understand the reasons for it. And I'm really excited for the league. I hope you guys are too. I think we're all going to be able to have a lot of fun this league. I think that there will be enjoyment for everyone and lots of new fun stuff to cover. So, for personal enjoyment and as far as content creation, I'm really excited for this league. Anyways, thanks for watching. See you guys soon. League launch in like 24 hours, man. I am super stoked and excited. I hope you guys are too. Peace.